Good morning. Welcome to the EPP Group briefing. The Chairman of the Group, Manfred Weber, has the floor. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. So I'm focusing on a few of the current issues for this week. First, the EPP was initiating for tomorrow morning the key debate on in the European Parliament this week, and the title is Migration. So the challenges on the migration side. I have to say we are sleepwalking into another big crisis. The numbers are high as they were in 2015 and 16, and nobody talks so much about this. That's why the EPP was initiating this. We have a lot of warning signals. The reception centers in Austria, Germany, Belgium, Netherlands are again full. I want to underline that we support the people who really need our protection, but the majority of people, especially from the southern routes or towards Europe, are not qualified for real protection. That's why we have to prioritize the debate again. We need solutions. We need a European debate on this. I want to welcome the initiatives and the work of the Czech presidency, because on the migration pact, when it is about the legal perspective to solving the challenge, we are as close to a solution as we never were before since 2015. You know, the debate is a long-standing debate on European level. And again, Czech presidency made a lot of progress on this. I want to thank them for doing so. That's why we need the migration pact now. There is a momentum, there is a chance to do so. We have to close it today. Without a solution on the external border, I have to warn everyone that a free Schengen area is also in danger. That is what we see already in the European debate. That's why let's prioritize this. The second thing is about this COP27 in Egypt. I would say that Europe failed to convince China to come to the table as a strong economy. China wants to be a global leader and not anymore a developing country. That means also that they have to contribute to the global challenges in front of us, especially to help the developing countries to overcome the impact of the climate change. Yes, we keep the 1.5 degrees approach, but there was no progress on China and others to contribute really to the joint common challenges. I also have to say that in this regard, European climate diplomacy failed in a way, and I want to come back to the old standing approach from the EPP that Europe needs a kind of a John Kerry. You know, we have on the American side John Kerry as a key partner. He was mentioned in several speeches in Egypt. And we don't have such a figure. We have one responsible vice president who is doing his job, but he has thousands of other jobs as well. So we need one diplomat in a way, one ambassador for the European ambitions on climate change to go out, to travel around in the world and try to convince as much as he can for our approach. So Europe needs a kind of a John Kerry for our diplomatic activities. I want to share with you that we are currently negotiating the resolution on Hungary when it is about the implementation of the conditionality mechanisms, the rule of law mechanism. It was a great success for my party, for the European Parliament as a whole, that we got this mechanism during the MFF negotiations and the RRF negotiations last time. It's not about punishing Hungary or something like this. It's about protecting our taxpayers' interests. That is what we are doing there. We are protecting the interests of our taxpayers all over Europe, that we fight against corruption, against misuse of money. That is what we are doing there. And that's why our main idea is that the Commission is really based on fact assessment, presenting then next week a real good outcome about their assessment. We are looking forward for this evaluation, for this assessment, and then we can finally judge. But the Parliament will be this week again united among all political families to support about a strict and a strong implementation of the conditionality mechanism. And finally, on the legislative moratorium, I want to remind you that the European People's Party is initiating a debate here in the House that we cannot continue as a Parliament, as legislator, as nothing happens after the 24th of February. So the war is back in Europe, and that's why for our farmers, for our SMEs, for our industries, we must guarantee that they can overcome this hard winter in front of us. That is what we want to initiate. That's why in all legislative fields, again, we cannot continue as nothing has happened. That's why we ask for a moratorium on additional legislative bureaucratic burden for our SMEs, for our farmers. Especially for the farmers, I have to remind you that we are running into a risk of a shortage of food on global level for next year. And that's why our message to the farmers is please produce food also for helping North Africa, the rest of the world, to feed people. So there are 4 points I want to mention from an EPP point of view for this parliamentary week.
No moratorium for questions, so please, Anna.
Anna Bandensky from Europe Diplomatic. I have a question on the resolution that will be voted tomorrow on Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism. What are the consequences you expect to achieve with this resolution? Because I know that your group supports it. And how you expect to continue trade with Russia, because your colleagues who were preceding you in this room, they said that there is no such legal notion as a terrorist state.
In these questions, we have not the same legal certain ground like the Americans have, so that's why we are in a situation of more uncertainty. For the moment, for us, it's clear that this is, first of all, a political statement we will do as European Parliament. And what the Russians are doing in Ukraine is terrorist behavior. That's for me obvious, and that's for me clear. They have not interest anymore to win on the front line. They only have the interest to destabilize now the civilian infrastructure in Ukraine, and that is like terrorists are behaving. That's why I think for this week the most important message is the political message. And my appeal to everyone is that we should keep unity in the European Parliament on these issues. In the past, it was always manageable that all parliamentarian groups were united on resolutions towards the Russian aggression, towards supporting our Ukrainian friends. I hope we can keep this approach also this week alive.
Thank you. Follow-up. But what does it mean for commerce in Europe? But still, because still there is grain, there is gas, there still are companies which are trading with Russia. What will be the consequences for them after that resolution?
Well, the legal consequences are always a part of the debates about the sanctions. And on the sanctions side, that is a legally binding, let me say, decision we take on European level. On the sanctions side, I want to underline that what I expect is the full implementation of all sanctions. That is what we need in this moment of time. So this week, again, political declaration to name Russia as they behave, a terrorist state and a terrorist regime. And I also want to make clear that I expect from all countries now the full implementation of the sanctions. This is not yet the case, that all sanctions are fully implemented. That is what we need urgently.
Emmanuel Beretta from Le Point. Do you think, do you have someone in mind when you appeal for an equivalent of John Kerry for negotiating the global warming?
Well, we have a lot of talented fighters and also convincing fighters, politicians and people for climate change. So I think the profile is, clear that you need someone on a level like John Kerry in America, who was well known, who was a strong activist who is convincing and also credible on the subject. So that's why this is in a way the criteria for assessing who could do the job, but I don't have a name at the moment. So let's look for this. I think we have enough good candidates. What we need is someone who is really 24/7 active on this and defending the European approach on global level. There we have a lack, I have to say. There we are not active enough, and that's why we need this personality.
Thank you. I'm from Brussels-based journalist for the Media Haber TV. It's all over the mainstream media agenda now, the Turkey's airstrikes. I would like to ask you it's two separate questions. If you can answer shortly, I will appreciate that. In northern East Syria as well as the northern Iraq, the people who fought and defeated ISIS gangs are under attack of Turkish warplanes right now while we are talking in this salon. So far, 15 civilians and 2 journalists has lost their lives. What is your comment on Turkey's airstrikes, ongoing airstrikes? Isn't it the killing the civilians is a war crime, first of all. And secondly, as you know, Parliament President Roberta Metsola called Turkey to respect human rights yesterday. What is your call on Turkey's airstrikes? Thank you so much.
I want to support our President's position. So Roberta Metsola expressed yesterday what is needed to say in this moment. We have to find peaceful solutions in all our conflicts, also in this conflict. And that's why everybody must respect humanitarian human rights as basic principles in all our actions, and also Turkey should do so.
Senator Shinoruda Media Network, Mr. Weber, you suggest a tougher approach regarding the situation in Iran. Today is on the agenda that there's a debate with the High Representative Joseph Borrell. What do you mean by the tough approach of EU regarding the current situation and the increasing of crackdown of protests in Iran? Thank you.
We see in Iran brave people out in the street and fighting simply for the principle of freedom, and that's why the idea of freedom, about the basic principle that we organize a society, that we live together, this basic principle is getting more and more support. That is what I want to say. So Iran is for me part of a bigger development over the last decades. We saw it in the east of our continent, of Europe. We saw it in Belarus. We saw it in Ukraine. People are fighting for this, even in Russia and also in Iran. People are fighting for this. So it's about human rights. It's about the basic principles of human rights. And in this fight, Europe, there should not be any kind of question where Europe positions itself. We are on the side of those who are fighting for these basic principles. So that, let me say this more generally. And on the concrete question about what can we do, I would ask really our external service, our foreign ministers. They will meet on Friday this week again. I will really ask them to make a proper assessment about additional measures. You know, on Iran, we already have implemented a lot of these measures due to the nuclear ambitions as well. So that's why we have to be there very clear. But if there is more room of maneuver for additional measures, I would fully appreciate to go further and to give a clear signal of solidarity with those who stand up and fight for their principles. It's not for European principles, for their principles, for their rights, and that is basically freedom. So that's why full assessment, and is there more room of maneuver to go further, let's do it.
Is there any other question? The back of the room.
Gregor Mainz, Rheinische Post. Mr. Weber, will there be a Qatar resolution as well this week, and which points and positions you will endorse?
Yes, there will be a resolution. We voted yesterday on this, yes, and the negotiations are ongoing. So I think we have a common understanding in the European Parliament about the question of diversity, of respecting all models of life, and also of love in the world. And that is what we are fighting for. I guess we will have a strong position of the European Parliament, a unified position of the European Parliament in this point. Although I have to say, especially in the German debate we are facing, with the European debate we are facing, yesterday was also a game changer in this regard. I think we all saw yesterday new developments from the FIFA side there, and that's why I think the European Parliament will be united and strong on these points.
Any other question? If it's not the case, thank you very much. Have a nice week.